Hello everyone, my name is Yevgeny Podarkin. Today we are painting a portrait of a wonderful red-haired girl with beautiful big eyes, big lips, and wonderful bright red eyes. Let's start as usual with the darkest areas. Our portrait will be painted on an imprimatura, meaning the canvas is prepared with a tone and color close to the main one. The primary color here is reddish, so our imprimatura matches it, so that if there are any gaps left in the painting later, which often happens when a portrait is painted in one session, there won't be any white spots showing through. That's why the canvas is prepared this way. Alright, let's start with the darks, with the darkest areas. This is accordingly the shadow on the scene. We're working with a large brush. Expansive portrait. The idea of this portrait is to create a vivid portrait with big, juicy brush strokes, so that it turns out bold and full of spirit, so that it looks impressive as a whole. It's not even about making this portrait look very similar, but rather about making it bright with them. Vivid. So where the neck is, you can see a small gap, where it's not covered by hair, but the neck is still in shadow. You can see this reddish color, a burgundy shade. We'll show you right away. So far, not yet. We're not trying to specify anything in detail yet. We're just applying the main tones, the main colors to our work. You can show the direction in our curly locks. And you can also show the main mass of hair with our bright red color. Now we'll show such hair undertones of this reddish brown color. And gradually we'll move on to bright orange. The gaps that remain between the hair, for now you don't need to touch them. The main thing is to apply color to the main mass of hair. Exactly, when we have the borders between dark and light colors, I don't really touch them yet, so as not to dirty the brush. Once I've applied the main bright colors, I'll start making the transitions from dark to light. You can even do it without a brush, without paint. At the top, our bangs are lighter. Let's show it. It's immediately lighter. Here, our hair comes in and frames the face. I'm narrowing my eyes but won't touch them yet. First, we need to outline the eye, and then we'll work on top of the hair. This is usually called an underpainting. I apply the first layer of the portrait with a thin coat so that we have the opportunity to add more layers later. And our canvas surface doesn't become uneven, which could harm the likeness. And now, since the colors here are pretty clear and obvious, that is, I'm already applying such a thick layer of paint, so if we add texture, it looks great. We'll finish with you for now. Now let's start with the face. On the face, we also start by showing the darkest areas. As you can see, the darkest areas are the cheeks and even the cheekbones. Let's move on to the moment. Fulfillment for us. There is also an orange shade here, just with the addition of a scarlet color called Rumyantsev. First, some random parts. It's a bit dirty like this. Brownish. With a red color. You can also start shaping the form a little right away. A slight transition to a brighter color. While I'm working with a large brush, so you should work with a large brush as long as you possibly can. Use it to define something or to show some small detail. So as long as you have the opportunity, always use a large brush. It will save you time and keep you from getting stuck on details. Let's show it like this. These are already halftones. Shadows on the wings of the nose. The same thing, since the drawing is done by hand, don't forget to check the proportions. When you apply color, they become more obvious, and very often. Only when you work with color do you start to realize that there are some inaccuracies somewhere. So checking is essential. Even when you're making a drawing or transferring it somehow. So even if you have an accurate drawing on the canvas, always keep checking it, because a portrait is something you must do. If somewhere you draw a line, let's say, I don't know, half a centimeter away from how you originally drew it, you already lose the likeness, or the face might immediately change. It becomes disproportionate, or you could lose the likeness entirely. So keep an eye on it, constantly compare. The cheeks, for us, are a bit rough. That's what's good about the emblematism, that here we've just started outlining the face, and already, because there are no white spots, we can clearly see which tone to use and what shades. And in some places where our orange remains, it will fit right in. So basically, you don't even have to cover it at all. Right here, immediately. I'm moving on to the lighter parts. We have them. They're kind of yellowish, transitioning from our pink, more of a yellow shade. Oh, right where we have shadows coming from the nose. There shouldn't be any sharp lines on the sides under any circumstances. No abrupt transitionless areas like that. There must be a smooth transition, because that's how the shape of the nose is defined. Especially for girls, it's very important to make everything very smooth. Even if there's a sharp shadow on the nose, it might make sense to soften it, to make that sharpness more gentle. So it's easier to do a male portrait, because some irregularities, sharp lines and transitions can actually suit the face. For a girl, on the other hand, it's the opposite. Don't forget to compare the halftones we have, that is, which area is lighter and which is darker. So we have the chin. In the photo, you can see that it's even lighter than the upper area of the cheeks. So you need to take that into account. Accordingly, compare them with each other by brightness. The cubic triangle is also bright. Around the lips, and then there's a slight shadow. Now we'll show it. The area near the nose, the lower part will almost always be in shadow, but here it's lit by a reflection from the lips, or rather not from the lips, but from the nasolabial triangle. Since her lips are very full, accordingly, the area under the nose is the lower part of the nose. It's lit quite brightly, but it will still be darker than the tip of the nose. This politely draws attention because it gives shape. If you don't take this into account, the shape of the nose won't be recognizable. Accordingly, the whole portrait. That's right. Use a smaller brush to apply the main lip color, so the neighboring areas can be done confidently. Her lips are so delicate and pink, with a bit of a cool shade. Let's lay them down with a single base color for now, and then we'll model them and add shadows, reflections. So clean. Let's find their shape. The upper lip is usually naturally darker than the lower one. In this case, in the photo, it's not very obvious. But it's worth sticking to this. It all depends, of course, on the lighting. For now, let's apply one color to the lips. With such a thin layer, it's what's called an underpainting. Between the lips, I almost always use a burgundy color mixed to make it even darker, either with ultramarine or with umber. Here you can mix it with ultramarine for the darkest part. And then they go already to our pink. In the middle we have the darkest part, then it goes to a lighter shade. Pay attention to this line, its shape. Its curves are very important because if you change the curves slightly, the facial expression and likeness may both change. The face likeness will be worse, or it might not look like them at all. Here, you need to pay attention. Compare again. Right now, our lips look pretty flat because they lack highlights and subtle tones. To instantly add some volume to them, first we'll slightly darken the upper lip. And second, we'll add some highlights to the upper lip. A highlight, that's what we get. Now Sanya will appear when we do this blending. Since it blends really well with our color, paint on the brush, and it creates a smooth transition. Here on top, make a change for the woman from the lip to show her shape. Down here, it's a little brighter than on top. I want to say again that it's very important when you're making a portrait from a photo to choose a photo of good quality. Especially if you're a beginner, it's very important to pick a photo of excellent quality. And quality is not just about pixels or the resolution of the photo, but also about the lighting. Lighting is even more important. Accordingly, you should choose a photo with classic lighting, that is, lighting coming from the front and slightly from above. And it's very important, not as important as lighting, but still important, that the shadows are soft and not harsh. Sometimes portraits with sharp shadows can look more dramatic. To make our lips come alive, you need to look closely at which side is darker and which side is lighter. These midtones are what show our shape. Do the same with this shading. Compare it to the upper lip. Is it lighter or darker in our photo? On the top and bottom, they're about the same in tone, but on the top they're a bit cooler. So here, if we have some red or a scarlet color, we can add a little bit of blue to make this shadow cooler. Okay, for now we can leave the lips. Hold off for now. Now we can basically do the nose and the eyes. Basically, I'll leave the nose for now. Also, there's a very handy tool here. You can use your finger to make some smooth transitions and shape the form where we still have some inaccuracies. So the eyes, when we draw them, we often make them big. And the eyeballs are quite light. Traditionally, people usually shade them with a general tone, covering everything completely. In our case, we'll lose the drawing if we do it that way, so I'll start detailing right away. Be careful with the tone here and pay attention to the eye sockets, but very often they're almost always in shadow. Don't be afraid to darken here, because this gives the effect of volume. Here I also use more burgundy mixed with some brown, like an orange brown. This is for deepening the upper eyelid and the brow bone. You need to show it boldly. Right away, look, the eyes start to stand out, even though we've only done a little bit. It's shown in this photo. It's quite an unusual lighting because the area that's usually the darkest, above the upper eyelid, is lit here with a kind of blue, yellow, green reflection. So, since we want to convey this atmosphere, we naturally need to do the same. The darkest area here is the upper eyelid, not above it. You definitely need to notice all these little details, so the volume is conveyed correctly. A smaller brush. You can slightly enhance the effect. For more brightness, take a pure color. A green-yellow shade. Light. And that's on one. On one side, it's like that. On the other, they already cover the hair over the eye. That's why it's not all that obvious. By the way, it's absolutely necessary to work. When you describe specific parts of the face, masks are made according to the shape of the face so that they don't break the shape. Just a little bit in that direction. So here we take this part a little darker. But you need to keep the same shade. A kind of yellowish greenish shade. Now let's move on to the eyeball. So the eye itself, let's outline our fish. First, the eyeball. The brightest part then already. The iris. Notice the eyeball is not white, it has a lot of shades, very often a bluish tint. Here there's even a bit of reddish, especially from the side of the hair. You can even see a little bit of red color. You definitely need to include that as well. Basically, we already have it there. We're just gradually layering white mixed with a little bit of blue on top. Sometimes with a bit of pink. Notice I'm placing the white of the eyeball lower and making the top slightly darker. Although in this case there aren't really any shadows there, the lighting is unusual. You can also trust the photo and make it probably the same. Only in the very center is the brightest part of the eyeball, and towards the edges it gets darker. So let's prepare our lower eyelids right away. Remember to indicate the thickness of both eyelids. The little area is usually the uppermost part of the lower eyelid. It's light almost always, and here it's noticeable as well. Since our portrait is quite bright, to convey this brightness, in some areas you can use really saturated colors, very intense. The face shouldn't be more contrasting or brighter than the hair, that way the whole portrait will look balanced. It will look very cohesive. The eyes are blue, maybe grayish blue, but the main color is very dark. Let's take our ultramarine, a little bit with burgundy, so that way. To reduce ultramarine's brightness, now we're showing the spot. Our joy is given to Malichku. Down. It's brighter for us accordingly. The rainbow butterfly, since it gets more light, You can even spot something green there. But now, over our ultramarine, we've already applied the shades that we see. Since our shape turned out uneven, we add color to the eyeball, already making adjustments. So the very center is very dark. You can use ultramarine and umber to make it almost black. I'll show you right away. The pupil itself often matches in darkness with the upper part of the iris, rainbow butterfly. And then there's a gradient going down, especially along the edges. Our rainbow butterfly is darker, which shows its roundness, that kind of spherical shape. I'm leaving the eyelashes for now to adjust everything else with foundation first, because eyelashes are the final touch. This way you'll finish the eyes. The pupil, or rather the iris butterfly, will be half covered by the upper eyelid, for example, so your eyes will look half asleep. If you open the iris butterfly too much, your eyes will look like this. Crazy. So here you need to have it like this. A boundary. You must clearly show the work's nature. The nature, or rather, the portrait. So now don't forget to compare the left and right eyes and edit their shapes relative to each other. You just notice, for example, that their shapes are a little bit different. They also differ in size, so we adjust them accordingly. We add the upper eyelid to this eye. Let's add our highlights. First, to show the shape that I haven't shown yet. It's great for comparing size. Rainbow butterflies. Actually, you'll have the same. So the highlights show us where the main light is coming from. Accordingly, here it comes from below. And don't forget that there will be a slight highlight reflected from the other side. Just a little. It won't be as bright, but it will be there. That will show us exactly our transparency, the transparency of our eyes, rainbow butterflies. The only thing, just a little bit. Let's add some more contrast. There. Don't forget the corners of the eyes. Show the burgundy tones right on the folds at the corner of the eye. Pink, accordingly, right in the middle of our tear duct. We pull it just a little bit. Accidentally. Okay, look, our nose is still untouched. But here it's actually quite tricky. Since it doesn't have those clear shadows that usually show the shape, we have to find it using subtle halftones. He has two shadows. On the sides and the middle, just like ours. A yellowish greenish color. The color comes from below. It transitions into this color. and onto the lips. So next we do our nostrils. We remove the burgundy spots. And you need to make the area just a little bit darker than the neighboring light from below. Here's the nose. Some areas have a halftone effect, while others have light along the edges. You can see the form be bolder. This light appeared. The edge, a faint pink light. Already about just the way it should be. Also, remember to compare the nose's thickness to the face's overall size. To compare properly, walk around and view from the side. When you examine the work up close, you need to understand the dimensions, how much you have, whether they are good or not. Here we have such a bright orange. Light. There's a reflection. It's a hair, and on the right side, such a delicate color. Peach mixed with orange too. There's a lot of pinkness in it. Also, if we compare the tone of the face and the nose, we can understand where we lack color, or on the contrary, where we can remove shadows. The tip of the nose. Make it lighter. Here, in terms of tone, we're moving on. Right there, where the orange spots remain. We didn't touch them. They're almost unnoticeable now that we didn't touch them, so that's great. It really helped us a lot. we gradually refine it by tone. The work is already looking good. It looks fine, so we're entering the refinement stage now. And for an Alla Prima portrait, this might actually be enough. At this point, everyone has their own standards for what's sufficient. Very often, when you get a portrait with such broad brushstrokes, it looks more impressive than if you try to make it more realistic with more blended and smoother brush strokes. But then it can lose its impact. That vibrancy you get with those bold, broad brush strokes. Now I'm getting rid of the area where we can see the pencil. And basically we could already finish here, but we can still work a little more on the hair to tidy it up. Also, I haven't finished drawing the bee yet, the one that goes over the eye and covers it a little. You can add a bit more, make some areas a little darker. I think it's time. I need to stop. Either I could get stuck for another day since the process takes everything out of me until someone stops me. So I think the portrait is ready. Let's not focus on the details. Overall, it looks great to me. Thank you all. If you have any questions, write to us in the comments. I also invite you to the portrait masterclass. Contact me for more details. I'm happy to help you.